Hello there, and welcome to MixStream episode 24. This is the bi-weekly show, this bi-weekly program that I do here on the Studio 2105 channel. And we are now up to episode 24 already. I can't believe it, right? I've been doing this for almost a year. And a little background history on what MixStream is all about, okay? Obviously, here in Malaysia, right, in various countries, we all have different lockdowns, right, due to COVID-19. And here in Malaysia, we went through what we call the Movement Control Order, which is the MCO. And, this was something that was in a response to that because a lot of, obviously, live music was all put on hold. Live events, concerts, gigs, and all of that. It's basically not permitted, and whole live music and entertainment industry, right, was pretty much buried. So unfortunately, this meant a lot of musicians, a lot of artists were out of work, out of source of income. So this was one of the ways which I felt the little thing that I could do to perhaps help to, two things. It's twofold, right? One, it's to highlight and to showcase local and regional music and regional talents. Most of the stuff that I feature here on this channel are projects that I've worked on. Either they've been recorded here at Studio 2105 or it's been recorded elsewhere and they've sent it to me for mixing, okay? You can check out, right, the rest of the episodes of MixStream. They're all over this YouTube channel, and also lots and lots and lots of other videos, okay? I do a weekly update Wednesday video every week where I usually answer and deal with a certain topic. I do some other tutorials as well. I have workshop videos from the Direct Access Music Production Workshop. All of that's on this channel. Do check it out, okay? So that's the first thing. It's to highlight local talents, right? Highlight local talents, highlight the music that's coming up from the local scene, right? Most of it's independent, though one or two are, end up being in the mainstream. Again, this depends on whether I get the clearance and permission from the label, right? But independents are usually cool. And, it's just to shed a bit of light and just to showcase and at least let viewers and the viewing public out there have a glimpse of how the mixing process goes, okay? And now, so that's the first part. But the second part also, as I mentioned, musicians and artists were all out of work. So this was just one of the ways where I felt that, whatever little that could be generated, whatever little revenue that could be generated from the from this live stream, some of it, okay, all right, we could generate and pass over some of this some of the revenue to the artists. So, all right, so take a look up here, okay? You can see up there in the text there. So if you want to contribute to our future artists this week, okay, all you need to do is just head on down to the website www.patreon.com/studio2105. Check out all the different tiers, all right? There are various different tiers, subscription tiers that you can subscribe to. Drop a message there, right? Or let me know that you want to support the feature artists who are Andy Chong. By using this code, type in the code MixStream24, okay, so that I know that if you are subscribing, if you are jumping on, your subscription is gonna 50% of that, 50% of the revenue is gonna go to the featured artist lah. And who is the featured artist for this week? Okay, all right. Okay, the featured artist this week is none other than the guitarist Andy Chong. Okay, so. Now, there's a description which you can actually read all down below in the video description. Gives you a great bio, right? So, this track that we are going to be mixing is titled Liquid Dreams. And this is one of the tracks, one out of, I think, about 6 or 7 songs, which is going to be coming out from his second album. Now, Andy actually released his very, very first album. Maybe I should run to the corner of it's somewhere in my shelf over there, okay? Now, Andy actually has an album out which is called Volume 1 Session Play, okay? Which I also had the opportunity and the privilege of recording and mixing here as well. Now, both the first album and the upcoming second album, which this track Liquid Dreams is going to be coming up from, features some of the most amazing musicians, okay, that we have to offer here, right? You have Andy himself, obviously, on guitar, and John Thomas on drums. AJ, who is my bassist in my band, Pop Shavit, he is a awesome bass player as well, and lots of other people, right? In the first album, we had another good friend of mine as well, Julian Chan, the saxophone player, and on this track, Featured Dreams, okay. All right, Featured Dreams, but Liquid Dreams, we have a guest feature. All right, we're very, very, very honored and privileged to have Mac Chu, right? Legendary Mac Chu, okay, on the keyboards. So you're going to be listening and checking it out. All right, so once again, if you are new, if you just joined into this live stream, welcome, okay? Welcome. Thank you so much for joining in, and especially on this Friday night. I know there's so many other things to do. There are so many sources of entertainment and content out there that you can check out. But it is super, super awesome, okay? If you're watching this, please, first of all, do say hi in the in the live chat section. Right? Let me know that you are watching this. Please don't be shy, okay? If you're watching this, at least just say hi. Let me know where are you watching, viewing from, be it here. Because we get viewers from, all over the world, not only in Malaysia, we're from Philippines, we've gone all the way from Canada as well in the past. So, super, super awesome, okay, that you are all jumping in. We're all part of this community. We are here to share. Now, Andy Chong is also here in the live chat. So if you have anything that you want to ask Andy, if there's anything that you want to find out more, and feel free to ask Andy as well, okay? Now, if you're watching this during the mixing process, I will check the chat from time to time, right? But most of the time, I do apologize because I'm focusing on delivering and working on the mix. I may not be able to check the chat that often. But what I want you to do is, if you have any questions, right? If you see something and you want to ask a little bit more, maybe about, how was the drums recorded and all of that, I'll be very, very glad to answer. Please just leave them in the live chat, okay? And you have questions for Andy also, okay? All right, like ask Andy, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite food? Okay, feel free, okay, to just ask. Likewise, okay, Andy, if you want to leave a link to the details where folks can get a copy of your album, actually, I will leave that in the description later on as well. Please do, okay, so that folks, if anybody wants to get Andy's first album, please go and check it out lah. We'll leave the links. I'll leave the link in the description below. And Andy, if you want, you can just type out the details in the live chat. Okay, this platform is all yours. All right. So, without further ado, let's get on down to the mixing process itself. So first of all, now if you tuned in earlier, you probably already heard some of it. Okay, right? All right. If you probably heard some of the music in the background, but first things first. Whenever we start a mix, we want to take a big picture look at it. So this process is referred to as framing and discovery, right? So when you pull up a rough mix, you sort of build a frame. You build a framework of where the music, right, the mix is going to be built upon. You have the rhythm section, you have your supporting your chordal instruments, you have your lead, your melody, and you have all your ear candy, your other feels, right? You pull a rough mix together. No EQ, maybe just a little bit of balance, a little bit of panning here and there, just to place things in there, just to have a big picture view. What parts come in, where does a certain part come in, or where does it come out, and that to give you a picture, an overall idea of what the mix is supposed to sound like. So let's take a quick listen. So this is a rough mix, as you can see. So there's drums, as I mentioned. Drums was played by the awesome John Thomas. Bass was played by AJ. All the guitars, Andy, and of course all the keys by the one and only Mac Chu. So let's take a quick listen, okay? So here we go. This is the rough mix of the song. I'll give you a quick play-by-play. Starts off with a guitar intro. Andy says link in the description. Or if you have the link right now, Andy, I will just quickly edit it into the description right away. Okay, here comes the melody. It's a nice lead guitar swimming around with some chorus and auto pan. You can hear the sweet, sweet electric piano, right? By Mac Chu. Then it goes into the B section with the lead guitar. Keyboard solo. Okay, and then we got a little funky guitars supporting in the background. Guitar solo. All right. Still in the guitar solo. Okay. Back into the main melody. All right, B section, back with the overdrive lead guitars. Second half with the harmony. Alright, okay, so that's the rough mix of the song. That is the only rough, okay? So no EQ, no compression, no processing or anything. Already sounds pretty awesome. Again, right? It's often said, and you've heard me saying this so often, it always starts with the source. The outcome of your output of the mix is so heavily dependent on, first of all, the source, meaning the player, the choice of sounds, the instrument, the quality of the recording. Is really, the magic really has to happen in all these areas before any magic can happen in the mixer, okay? Right? So it's not really the gear, it's not the plugins, it's not whatever tips or tricks or techniques that, I as a mix engineer go apply in here. If the source is great, it's going to sound great in the end, okay? So now let's dive straight into it. Now, first of all, first of thing that's very important, we want to set my initial levels. Okay, I want to gain stage and make sure that my gain staging is consistent throughout the entire song and throughout the entire project. And actually, not only throughout this project. So every time when I mix, I'm making sure that I've sitting here and listening back to a calibrated level. So when I'm listening back to the speakers, right? When I'm listening to the monitors here, I'm always listening at the same level, and I'm aiming for about, an average of about 85 dB SPL. Okay, now without going into Fletcher Munson, right, curves and all that theory, basically, right, this means that every time we work, every time we mix, our ears have a consistent reference and frequency response curve that we are calibrated to. Okay, so that's very, very important. Now, so how do we do that? Okay, very simple. Those of you who have followed me will already know where I'm going to go next, okay? So we're going to start by, to set your initial levels, I use the kick drum because that's probably the simplest instrument that we can use to establish a reference. So what do we do? Right? What I want to do is I want to ensure that my kick, I want to try and aim so that the kick drum peaks at about minus 12 dBFS, okay? dBFS, decibels relative to full scale. So once I made sure, so that once my kick is peaking to that level, everything else will be mixed relative to that, you see, right? So I do this for every project. So every time, all right, whether I'm mixing this song or another song, another project, every time it will be consistent. Now this, first of all, I sort of aim for minus 12 because it gives me sufficient headroom. Very unlikely, right? It gives me sufficient headroom, so I will not clip the master. But at the same time as well, my levels don't end up being too low, right? So if your overall levels in the end is too low, the problem is when you master it, when you bring it up to levels that's suitable for broadcast and for streaming, right? All your noise floor is also going to come up as well. So it's always good. Gain staging is very important, even in digital. So let's start off with the kick. Now, one thing I want to sort of highlight to you is that, right? It's very common now in inside the DAW in the digital environment to sort of recreate and sort of recapture a little bit of that analog flavor. Okay, right? So many of our favorite records were done on large format analog consoles, and even to this day, even though a lot of things are being done in the box, right? Quite a number of big and major records in the end still end up being mixed on a large format analog console. Maybe they're just using it as a giant summing box. Who knows, right? But it's still very important. So we still sort of harken back to those sounds of an SSL, an API, Neves, because there's just something pleasing about it. So what I'm going to do, just very quickly show you, is that on every channel I will have, right, these couple of plugins in here. First thing I will have is this is a tape emulation plugin. So this is the virtual tape machines from Slate Digital. So basically what we're going to do here is it's emulating as if every track, right, was recorded on an analog tape machine. In this case, right, a 2-inch 16-track machine. So I can play with the speed of the tape, 30 IPS, right, inches per second, or 15 IPS. The tape type, whether it's the 456, which is the Ampex 456, or FG9, which is a Quantity GP9, right? Folks, if you have worked on analog tape before, you'll be familiar with those, okay? So that's the first thing. And the one that's following up next is this. This is the, firstly, this is virtual channel, also from Slate Digital, right? So this is emulating coming up. Okay, so just now it was coming from a tape machine. Now you're going into a channel of an analog console. So you have different settings here, right? They can emulate from an API, SSL, right? Two types of SSL, the British Neve, you have a Trident, you have an RC tube as well, okay? So I'm going to go for the API because that's the one that I like the most. And then coming from this, it goes into another one. This is the FG73. This is the emulation of the Neve 1073 preamp, okay? And yeah, basically this is what we have. Tape machine going to a channel of an analog console and with a pre of the of a Neve. Okay, so you get the best of both worlds in this way. So this is going to be across all the channels. So let's start with the kick drum. Let's start with the kick in. Right, here we go. Okay, now this you might not be able to see because I am on a dual monitor setup. Okay, but I am trying to aim to get the kick at about minus 12 dBFS lah. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Now you can't really see it, but it's now about minus 13. Okay, and sometimes you have a little peak there. Let me bring it over. Let's bring the mask over so that you can see it. Okay. Yeah, here we go. So pay attention to this number. Around there, minus 13. Sometimes a little bit more, minus 12. So it's kind of averaging about minus 13, I suppose. Okay, right. Awesome. So it's sitting about exactly where I want it to be lah. Now this minus 12 dBFS number, it is not a fixed, it's not a rule, it's not it's just a guideline which I set for myself. If you prefer to aim for a little bit higher, if you want to go for minus 10 dBFS, it's perfectly fine. You want to go for lower, all right, it's perfectly fine as well. It's just whatever level that you are comfortable with. Okay, so here we go. So we have the kick. So now I have this kick drum at this level. Everything else will be balanced relative towards it lah. So let's play around with a little bit first. I would start by just high passing at 20. Okay, so let's do a little bit of EQ. Now, with a lot of the closed drum mics, I don't really like to compress, all right? And again, with a awesome drummer, okay? Right, with an awesome drummer. Come on, man, like someone like John Thomas, superb dynamics, right? Beautiful tone, beautiful technique and tone, right? You really don't need to do much lah. Right? But what I would like to do is I will drop in a clipper, right? A clipper limiter. This is just to kind of shave off the really tops transients of the kick drum. So I would go for somewhere maybe a little bit louder towards maybe the B section. Okay, let me play here. Okay, so this is the little clipper by Boss Digital Labs. So this is just going to catch the tops. And that's it, right? Right? Only also on the very loudest hits. Okay, and that's all that's needed. So no compression on this. I will have a EQ. So let's pull up maybe the SSL EQ, which in this case the FGS. Okay, so let's put a narrow Q. So I want to suck out maybe about 200. Okay, and that's it actually. I just want to suck out a little bit of 200, that's all. Now, the FGS, I can go a little bit more surgical with Q basses. So let's go, I'm hearing this. Okay, there's a little bit of this resonance at about 193, so let's cut that out. Okay, cool. So another one, let's go for. Okay, now I'm hearing something also at about 126, 130. Now, this number is actually very interesting because the typical fundamental of a kick drum is somewhere between, depending on the tuning or and also the size of the kick drum, can be anywhere be around the range between 50, 60, and 70 hertz. So now the kit that that was recorded here, that we recorded, so it's got the fundamental is about 60. That's why you can hear over here at this 126 hertz. This is the octave above the fundamental. So I'm just going to do a little. All right, let me just highlight this note again. There you go. Can you hear it? Okay. Now, first of all, right, let me digress first of all. I do recommend, first of all, that you listen to this on either a good pair of headphones or earphones, in-ears, whatsoever, or if you are fortunate enough to sit in front and have a pair of monitor speakers in front of you, I recommend that you listen to this, okay? If you're kind of just listening to this on a mobile phone or mobile device, some of the finer details are definitely going to be lost. Okay, so I highly recommend that you, right, at least have a good pair of earphones lah to listen to this. So let's cut it out. Awesome. Okay, right. So this is going to be important, right? Dipping out this 120, 130 area is going to give space for the bass guitar later on, okay? Right, to live, so that they will kind of gel and not clash with each other, okay? So I'm just going to make a little bit space for that. Okay, so kick in. All right. Now, next thing I'm going to do is just to blend in a little bit of the out mic. So this was recorded with a mic that was inside, all right, the kick drum, and another one that was placed about 3 feet forward from the resonant head lah. So this one, let's check it out how this sounds, okay? All right. Okay, as you can see, this is much more muffled, okay? So what I'm going to do with this, I'll usually EQ this quite drastically. This one is just to kind of give it a little bit of body lah. I'm going to take away all the top end and just blend in a little bit of this, okay? So let's listen to it. See, that's it, all right? EQ a bit more. Okay, you can hear a little bit of this resonance, about 190. And that's it. Probably, let me change the filter slope to 24, a little bit steeper. That's it, okay? So this is kind of like acting like a little bit of a sub kick, just to blend underneath the kick drum, okay? Here we go. Let's listen to it. I've been muted. Okay, this is super subtle. Let me invert the polarity. Oh, okay. Okay, right. When I invert it, now again, you need to have, you know, a pretty decent pair of speakers to listen to it lah, okay? So let me invert the polarity so we can listen to. So when I invert the polarity, it feels a lot bigger down at the bottom to me, okay? All right, so let's go with that. Okay, now, right, let's see what else is going on in here. Hey, we have, right, I know I can see a few chat messages are already in here. Thank you so much, okay? Everyone who's watching, please say hi in the chat, okay? Right, don't be shy, all right? I will get to you in a second. Okay, so that's kick drum. Now I am going to not gonna go with the snare. I will always go when I mix. I'll go straight away with the overheads next. I love mixing from a more top-down approach, especially when it comes to drums. I prefer to capture the overall sound first of all, okay, early on. So let's blend in the overheads. Okay, here we go. All right, okay. Let me unlink this for a second. Let me try and even out, okay? Because now it sounds like one side is kind of a little bit louder than the other. So let me just adjust the gain to compensate. Here we go. At about maybe 4.5. Okay, there we go. Right. Okay, let's EQ the overheads a little bit. Let's take out about, some of the bottom. Okay, there's a bit of 350, 360 that's in the overheads. Let's cut that out. And a bit of boxiness here at about 530. So just very, very small, tiny cuts. Okay. All right. So that's all. Just a little bit of EQ on there. So let's go on with the, what I like to put on the overheads is actually the AOSIS de-esser. This is the E2 de-esser. So de-essers are not only useful for taking away S's, right? Basically, because it is a frequency specific compressor. That's what basically a de-esser is. You can dial it into a certain frequency, right? For example, the sibilants or the S's, right? When it comes to vocals, you can use that in so many applications as well. So what I'm going to do in here is I've dialed it in so that this one is just going to very, very gently, every time you like the crashes and the cymbals come in, you'll just very, very gently sort of massage it down by a little bit. Okay, so let's check it out. Dial it back down. Okay, sometimes it doesn't even kick in as well, right? Right? Sometimes it doesn't even kick in because, again, a very well-balanced drummer with great tone. You know, he doesn't bash on the cymbals way, way too hard and too harsh. So it does not need much to be done, okay? I heard a guitar playing just now, so let me make sure I mute these guitars also. And voila, okay? That's the kick and the overhead. So once I've dialed that in, now let's bring in the snare. Okay, one interesting thing that you can probably check out, this was actually recorded with two different snare drums. So the way that John set it up, we actually have two different snare drums. One, the main one that you hear, these three, let me highlight this. This was my Yamaha Oak Custom. And this one, this snare here was another snare that John brought. So what we did was, so that the A and B section, we have two entirely different snare sounds. So the A section, the first snare that you're gonna hear, is tuned really, really low, right? So it almost has a kind of a slightly muted, you know, kind of a sound. So let's check it out how this one sounds. Okay. There, it sounds like this. Yeah, it's like super tuned and very, very, very damped kind of a snare, right? So let's check it out. Okay. Now this one has got quite a bit of top end, so let me remove that. Okay, a bit of that 280 just out. Okay, same thing. All right, I would like to put on the little clipper. Okay, here we go. Just to catch the tops, okay? Okay, let me check the invert the polarity for a sec. Right. So obviously when I inverted this, it sounds a little bit thin. Much fuller, much better. Okay, very cool. Okay, let's go on then. So when it gets to the B section and the solo, it goes into the second snare. Right? Yeah, this is the higher tuned one. Okay, let's check it out. All right, so right, this is definitely different tune higher. So very interesting. There's a shift of dynamics, okay, just simply by changing the snare sound. Okay, a bit of 840, 850 that I just want to cut out. That's it. All right, super simple. Alright, okay, so now I'm going to blend in the condenser. Okay, you see there's a snare A and B. It's recorded with two different mics. Snare A was the dynamic, and snare B is a condenser, okay? Okay, the condenser, as you can hear, is, of course, it has a little bit more wider frequency response. Let me cut it out. Okay, this one seems to emphasize about 800, but you know that 800, 850 range was giving a little bit of honkiness there. And that's it, alright? Super, sounds great. Snare bottom, let's check out. Okay, right. So here I will probably scoop out a little bit of this mid. It's about 1.2. Okay. And about 430. Okay. Okay, what I want out of the snare bottom is pretty much more of just the snare wire, right? The rattle of the snare wire. And it's very useful. If you have the extra channel and the additional mics, right? It's always it can be a handy thing to have a snare bottom mic as well. Because the way I treat this, I treat the snare bottom mic almost pretty much like an EQ. Because when you bring in a little bit of the snare bottom with the snare wire, it basically it acts as a EQ for the brightness. Okay, right? Just by bringing it in, you make the snare a little bit brighter. So let's blend it in. Okay, see, it gets brighter, but this is obviously a bit too much. So just a little bit of it. There we go. Yep, super simple. So that's kick, snare, and let's bring in a little bit of the hats, hi-hats. Okay, hi-hats, I'm gonna be pretty brutal and just go all the way up. Okay, about 1.1K, you have a bit of the snare resonance, and voila, that's it. Okay, I put my hi-hats all the way to the left. Okay, let me invert this first. Sounds a little bit better. Sounds a little bit fuller when it's inverted. Okay, moving on. Next thing, room microphones. Let's check out how the room mics sound. So this was recorded with a pair of, not a pair actually, it's a single mic. It's a Vanguard V44 stereo microphone. One of my favorite microphones now that are used for a lot of stuff. So super simple. I think I recorded this with some compression already. So basically I'm just going to blend this in, okay? I will probably want to roll off a little bit of the top. Let me just bring this over so we can see. Some of the bottom, I'm going to roll it off. And about 630, you see this commonly, okay? All right. And just blend in the room. All right. Oh, okay. Maybe I see a couple of chats in here. Hey, first of all, right, to Al Kamil. Hi, Kamil. Thanks, man. Watching from Ampang. Thanks for joining in this live stream. Okay, very cool. Let's see. Okay, so you question is why only a tiny count of boxiness? Because that's all it's needed. Again, you only sometimes the best thing to know is what not to do. You don't want to EQ just for the sake of EQing it. You are only, for me, right, there's no an issue. I'm just removing that. And it helps also because, again, not to toot my own horn, right? The drums was recorded here. So great care was taken into the recording, right? Making sure that we capture the best tones possible so that it already sounds great. Okay, so there is not much to do. In mixing, we don't want it to be a case of, fixing in a mix, where it becomes a situation of fixing problems and fixing errors. That's not mixing already. Then it becomes you are not creating or crafting a mix. You're basically just going in fixing problems and fixing errors. And sometimes, some projects do come in that way, and it ends up being a process of editing and fixing, right? It becomes that sort of a project lah. But when you work with, first of all, world-class musicians, we have John Thomas here on drums, great recording, there's not much that's needed to be done, okay? Right? You don't, for me, basically, I don't want to screw up the sound, okay? So just blend in a little bit of room, okay? This helps give a bit of size. Maybe a bit too much, just dial it back. Okay, let me tune in. There's one more. Okay, add about 820, just a tiny bit. All right, okay. Now, these are pretty much all the, I've not gone to the toms yet, but these are pretty much all the closed mic channels. But what I have actually done, all right, is that I've also actually done a little bit of resampling, all right, a little bit of drum resampling as well. So I've already done this prior to the session. I prepped everything. So as you can see here, this is a kick sample here, and I have the samples also for two different types of snares, all right. So I was using a SSD Slate Digital, all right. So in this case, the samples are just going to go underneath to reinforce, right, the mic'd up drums, okay. This is not a situation where we use the samples are going to be going to be used to replace and to fix the issue with the drummer or the drum recording, because again, great drummer, right, and a really good recording, there's nothing much to do. It's just there to sort of enhance things, okay. So I'm just going to blend this kick drum in. All right, let's check it out. Let me mute it. Let me check the polarity. There we go. Invert the polarity. And that's it. All right. This is just to give a layer of solidness to the bottom. Okay, this one. About 240. This needs to be scooped out pretty much, quite a bit. There you go. Just a tiny bit, okay? Now it feels like the kick will need a bit of cap to cut through, so let's check this out. Yep, so just about. All right, just a couple of dB, right? Just under 3 dB, all right? At about 5K for the kick, for the beater to come through. So we're gonna do the same with the snare samples, okay? Just blend it in only. That's all it's gonna do. So this is the lows. This one. Okay, let's EQ this. It's got a little honk there. At about 1.08K. And just blend it in. Check the polarity. Let's see, huh? Okay, yep. So it's better the way it is, right? So just leave it as original. All right. So just blending in. Same goes. This is the second snare. Let's check it out. Okay, take out a bit of the bottom. This one has a bit of a ring. At about 9:15. So let's chop that out. Check the polarity. Okay, yep, so everything's good. Yeah, so everything's pretty cool. Okay, let's move on to the toms. Let's check out the toms, okay? So let's find a section of where the toms are playing. So let's start with tom 1, okay? So now all of the toms, as you can see, also have the basically all the tracks have the tape and the console emulation. Let's go with, let's check Tom 1 first. So first of all, check the polarity. All right. Check against the overheads. Flip it. Oh, okay. So original is much better. Okay, right. As you can hear, it's much fuller with the polarity non-inverted. Okay, let's EQ a bit. At about 890, a bit of that honkiness. At about 230. Okay, I want to add in a bit of the bottom, so let me put in Bark of Dog. So this one is one of my favorites, just to, because this has a classic filter shape on the bottom. It kind of emulates, right, with some of the filter shapes that you can find on a Pultec EQ. So let's try and look for it. So I set usually about 5 dB boost, and let's dial in the frequency. Okay, so here we go. About 140 plus. Is that correct? Let's take a look and see. Oh yeah, it's about that. Yeah, so okay, so about 140. Check with classic. Which one sounds better? This is the classic curve. Sounds bigger that way with the passive. I kind of like it with the passive, right? Sounds bigger. There we go, okay? So let's repeat the process. Let's go with Tom 2, check the polarity. Always check, okay? Alright. Flip. Surprisingly, it kind of sounds better when it's flipped. Alright. Low end wise, it's pretty consistent, but there's a slight change of tone in some of the the overtones. So the funny thing is, when I invert it, you actually hear more of the overtones, right? Which in theory is actually better, right? In theory, right? Because it's always like, oh, you know, when everything is much more phase coherent, you know, you have less cancellation. But in this context, it's actually much more appropriate for a little bit of that cancellation on top, so that the overtones kind of cancel each other out. Okay, sorry, go on, mosquito flying around here, lama. Okay, right. You know, it's a rainy season, all right? Everyone stay safe, okay? All right, be careful. So mosquitoes are flying around here. I think I got it. Okay. Oh no. All right. I just killed a living being on live stream. Please don't cancel me, okay? Okay. Let's go back to this. So in this case, I kind of prefer it the original way, which was a little bit phase cancel. I didn't lose the low end, so that's cool. See, that's perfectly fine. But it actually helped to cancel out some of the overtones. So let's go and go with this setting. Okay, let's EQ. Take out a bit of the bottom. Oh, that's the wrong one. Wrong band. Okay, a bit of this overtone, so let's scoop it out. Okay, we have one little thing poking out here. Now, let's see. There's actually one overtone which is kind of close to the fundamental, but let's see whether is it gonna affect or not. Okay, this one here, about 170. Okay, let's just do a little cut first, and let's bring in the, as usual, just now, the bark of dog, just to see how whether I can bring up the bottom, okay, without bringing up too much of the overtones lah. I think it's pretty alright. Let me bypass this. Okay, stays pretty much consistent, so I'm okay with that. Let's check the passive. Passive somehow seems better, right? It just makes it a little bit bigger. Okay, so 110. It's about that. Yep, it's about that. Oh, I accidentally engaged this. Okay, so yep, so about 110. Okay, sounds good. Okay, last but not least, let's go with the floor tom. So let me select this one instead lah, because it's a bit longer. Same process, let's go through it. Flip polarity. Okay, sounds best the way that it originally was. Again. Okay, let's get rid of... at about 315, 316. Just a little bit. A bit of honkiness. About 890. Right, okay, same thing. Let's go with the bark of dog once again. Now, you could always, of course, not necessarily need to have this kind of a plugin. You can always use a normal EQ, right? The reason I'm kind of doing this is just because it's got a particular shape with the filter curve, which I kind of like, so I find it useful, right? And this is designed, okay, for this sort of work anyway, okay? Yeah, so about 80. Go with passive. Combo, right? In this case, the combo one sounds better. It's a bit cleaner because it doesn't bring up as much of the overtones as passive lah, okay? Okay, so here we go. Yeah, let's check out this tom fill. Sweet, there you go. Alright, lovely. Okay, now let's move on. Okay, I'm going to plug in a little bit of reverb on the drums, and what I'm going to use is this one. Now, pay attention to where I'm actually adding the reverb. I'm actually adding the reverb on the overheads. Okay, alright. This was a technique which I kind of learned, and let's go with the default setting. This is Reverence by Steinberg. Now this is a convolution reverb. So what a convolution reverb means that it actually uses impulse responses, IRs, so that you can simulate. You can actually will actually model real actual physical acoustic spaces. You can take a model of, let's say, the MPO Philharmonic Hall and load the impulse response inside a convolution reverb. Or you can even take an impulse response, right, of a particular effects device, maybe an outboard gear or an outboard device, and that's basically, right, the fundamental of how modeling works. So, right, this is being applied in the case of reverb, okay? So this one is LA Studio. It's one of the ones that instantly I think sounds good, right? So this is gonna how it's, let's apply this. Okay, usually I just go. Okay, super simple. Just gives a bit of space. This is dry, so it's a little bit of that. Now I may later on, of course, add it into the close mics as well. Okay, but first let's EQ this. So solo the reverb. Okay, let's get a bit rid of the 1.1K. Okay, and it's got a bit of this at about 840. So let's scoop it out a little bit. Okay, I think the kick could still use a little bit more bite. So about 4.5 dB now, okay? And that's pretty much the drums. Now I mentioned that I don't use a lot of compression on the drums, but what I will do is actually I love to actually put I will strap a stereo compressor over the entire drum bus. Okay, and the favorite one that I'm going to use is the Waves API 2500. So I've already dialed this in already, and usually all I need to do and play around is with the threshold and with the attack. This is kind of the setting which I like to use already. So let's go with this section. Ooh. Oh, I'm loving it. Okay, let's bypass this. Okay, now, obviously with the compressor engaged in, right, the level is gonna be a little bit softer, so I gotta compensate. Okay, so let's compensate. But I love what it's doing with the snare, man. The snare has really got that real bite and snap to it already. See, right? Nice, cool. But with the compression, really just gels and just massages the whole drum kit together. Let me play around, okay, with the attack, because sometimes what I'll do is I will, now at the default setting, this is the, at the initial setting, this is the fastest attack, but let's go with maybe a slower attack. But I'm really liking, right? Obviously, if I go with a slightly slower attack, a little bit more transient, especially the snare will come through. But I'm kind of liking it with the fastest attack. So let's just leave it again. Leave it there, okay? Now, there's a saying that goes, set and don't forget, right? And if you watch my previous live streams, you will know I always mention this. What this means is that, okay, whatever you do, you set it, right? You make your decisions, your EQ, your compression decisions, your effects decisions, set it, right? Move on quickly to the next thing, but don't forget, okay? Because later on, I will always sometimes will jump back again to tweak it, okay? Now, let's see what else is going on. Okay, right. Hang on a second. Let's see. All right. Oh, Camille also said, sorry, can't see clearly. You hard pan the hi-hat to the left. Yes, I do. Okay, I like to take advantage of the full width of the stereo image. Now, the hi-hat track in here, right? It's more for localization. What do I mean by that? Again, when I mix the drums, the way that I record and I prefer, I really make sure that the overheads, for me, overheads play a huge role, very important role, because you are capturing the overall drum kit that way. You really need to pay a lot of attention, right? Really getting a good drum sound really boils down to getting good overheads, okay? How you position the overhead mics and where you position it. And again, this is a topic that I won't go into. Now, if you want to check out more, actually, right, there is actually on my channel, there's a playlist called the Direct Access Music Production Workshop playlist. It's very hard. You won't miss it, okay? It's all green color thumbnails, right? Very bright green, as you can see. So inside there's actually some modules related to drum recording and miking techniques. Okay, and also, right, a one on the drum recording session itself. So please go and check it out, okay? Right? Now, let's see, right? Who else is here? Camille also says, how about guitars later? Hard pan as well? I don't know. We have to see. Wait and see later, okay? All right? Right. Rough Fluff Box says, hello. Hi. And Fluff Box, oh, this is Travis, right? Yeah? Andy Chong, yo, Travis. Oh, yes, confirm. Yeah, this is definitely. Hey, thanks for joining in, man. Right. Good to see you. Thanks for joining in the live chat. Thanks for saying hi, okay? Hope you're doing good. Hope you're doing well, all right? Hope to see you in the studio one day real soon, okay? All right. So, now, without further ado, let's move on. So, there we go. That's our drum mix already. Okay. Note, yes, I'm skipping the ride for now because I think most of what I've gotten is enough from the overhead mics already. The right mic has always been just in case I need it later, and we'll see how. Once everything is in, once all the other parts are in, we'll see whether we need it or not. So now, okay, bass, all right, and well, this is where Travis wants to come in. Okay, so bass in here, all right, maybe this is something that'll be interesting to you, okay? All right. Fluffbox says, Travis says, yes, that's me. Haha, how's it going, JD? Going good. Thanks for asking, man. Right, so, well, your timing is just right because I'm just about to go into bass. Okay, so this one is, right, the ubiquitous one and only AJ. Okay, all right. Love that guy. Okay, he's a good friend and a good brother of mine. I've known him for so long. And obviously, he's my bandmate in my band. So, who's not to love? Okay, all right. Okay, what's there not to love? So now, AJ has provided here with 3 different tracks. One is a DI, one is an amp, and one is a dirty track. Probably running through the preamp pedal and then giving you a parallel of a dirty one. So let's see which one is appropriate. Okay, let's check out the bass DI first. Okay. Okay, what I'll do is I'll roll off a bit of the 20. Okay. Same goes, let's check out the bass amp. The bass amp sounds pretty full, actually. Okay, right, but what I will do is I'm actually going to roll off a lot more of the bottom from the bass amp and just kind of take maybe the mids and the higher register. The reason is because I kind of prefer the bottom end from it to be clean, so I'll take it from the DI, okay? So let's roll this off. So yeah, so about 160. So here we go. All right, cool. Okay, so now let's go. So the bass is gonna be buzzed to this group. Now, first thing I wanna do is, and this is a very common thing that I do encourage, right? Especially whenever you're dealing with, number one, a DI signal combined with a mic signal. Or sometimes even if you are using a clean DI signal and then you're running through an amp modeler or some VST plugin, I encourage you to check this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually check the phase coherency, okay, between the two. The reason is because, right, you see the DI signal is a very direct, I mean, pardon the pun, the name, right? It's a very direct signal path. Straight from the bass into the DI, straight right into the audio interface. Whereas if you're talking about an amp and a mic, you have a much more longer signal path, right? You have the signal coming off from the bass, right, into your cable, into your DI, split into the input of the amp. Then the amp has got the all its EQ sections, the amplifier section, and it's got to physically move the speaker cone, right, and the coil and the speaker cone. So it involves electrical and mechanical processes. Invariably, this kind of thing will always involve a little bit of time, right? And then likewise, when you have the mic, the same thing happens. The sound waves hits the mic, the diaphragm, right? Mechanically, it moves, signal gets converted. So obviously, right, a amp or a mic signal is always going to be a little bit late there, okay? So I can kind of demonstrate and show you this. Let's zoom in very quickly into this, right? Let's look at, okay, so we'll take a look. Right, so, okay, can you see this? This is, let me increase the zoom. You see, this is where the waveform of the DI starts. The amp starts a little bit later, right? This could be only a few milliseconds, right, later, but it is still a little bit later, lah, okay? So this is why it's good to pay attention to this. So, right, I'm going to show you what I do. I have a plugin that's called, right, it's called InPhase. Now, there are many ways of doing it as well, okay? And I'm supposed to do a video tutorial on this real soon, okay? Hopefully, I'll get that out quick. But what I'm going to show you is, right, what this plugin is going to do. It's just going to analyze the difference between the two and, right, hopefully measure the difference, and then I can adjust the delay time so that they will match lah. So very easy. Let's play the track. Okay, and then capture. Okay, now you can hear a nice stereo bass. Capture. And voila, it just takes a few seconds. Okay, So here you go. So it's already captured the bass here, okay? So the top is the DI, the bottom is the amp, right? We can zoom in, right? Basically, this is going to kind of tell us the information. And right away, again, so you can see, right, there is a slight delay, right? Actually, it looks pretty good here. Okay, right, this is easier. This one you can see a little bit easier, okay? So you can see that the amp is slightly delayed, okay? All right. Look at the positive waveform, and then the amp is slightly delayed. So let's do a few things. Down here, this is a correlation meter, okay? Basically, good correlation, good phase correlation will give you positive values, right? That means there is minimal cancellation. Whereas negative values, okay, will tend to show you that, oh, there's some kind of phase cancellation going on. So at the moment, it is at minus 0.04. So there's a very tiny amount, right? It's very, very subtle. So let's see whether we can improve this. So let's take a look, right? They're very close actually. 0.04 is really good. Is considered quite okay. If it's zero, if it's you know, as long as it's not too far over to the negative, it's actually pretty okay. Let's invert the polarity first of all. Let's see what happens. So when I invert, okay, so when I invert first of all, as you can see, immediately it goes from negative 0.04 goes to positive 0.04 okay. Obviously when you invert, right, if negative become positive. So kind of when you look at it here, it kind of gives you a better picture. Let's take a look, okay? All right. Let's see. So maybe if things are correct, it seems that the DI one is slightly earlier here. So let's use this as a point of comparison, right? Okay, so let's try delaying the DI, right? So I prefer to delay the DI, which is the earlier one. I prefer to delay it to the amp rather than vice versa. Again, there's no right or wrong. You can do it both ways, right? In the end, the result's going to be the same. But somehow I kind of don't mind if it's slightly later, as opposed to, it feels different to me for some reason, okay? Let's pull this back slowly. So this is the delay meter. Let's do this back. You can also drag it here if you want to. And let's see what happens. And immediately you can see the correlation value increases, right? 0.08, 10, 15, and it gets better. 17, 18, 20, okay? So this is telling me that the phase coherency between the DI and the amp track is improving, okay? So let's see, okay? Let's see how far can we go. Let's pull it a little bit more, and it seems to be even better. See, as it gets much, it's a huge change there, man. Okay, 60. This is huge. Okay, so let's see. Let me zoom this out again. Okay, let's move this waveform a bit over to the right so you guys can see. Okay, maybe here. Let's see. Wow. Okay, let's try this and see. Okay, and it's still going. And okay. As you can see here, it's kind of reached a point of diminishing returns where the value starts going down. So let's look for the value where you get the maximum. Okay, the best, which is about 7.78, 0.77, 0.78. Let's take a look. Now, so this is not 100% accurate, but you can kind of see this is where the peaks seem to peak at the same time, and you know the throw of the waveform is around the same. Let's take a look outside as well. See, it's roughly here. So this kind of tells me, just based on the metering, that this one is much more phase coherent. So let's take these figures in mind. So, right, amp is phase inverted, and delay is 2.11 milliseconds. So let's remember this, okay? Let's remember these values. So, right, let's bypass the effect, and let's mono this. Let's play the bass. Bass. Okay, first of all, let's take a listen, okay? Flip. Okay, flipping it does not do much, but the let's put in the time delay. So here I'm going to put in the time delay, 2.11 milliseconds, okay? And let's see what happens to the tone. Wow, okay. Let's go back to 0. .11. Do you hear that? There is a huge change in the tone, you know? So now, with 0, there is a bit of a scoop in the mids, right? A bit of a mid-range is lost, but when it's back in tune, suddenly the whole fullness of the bass comes back in. Here we go, 2.11, okay? See, all the low mids, right? All the clarity seems to come out again, right? So this is something that's always worth to explore, right? Check the phase and check the phase of the bass. In fact, anywhere wherever you have a mic and you have a DI signal, right? It's always important to check the phase, okay? So let's stick with this, right? Because I'm loving it. It's much more fuller and much more clarity when it comes to the bass, lah. So let's bring in with the drums once again. Okay, now I'm curious as well. Later on, I'm curious whether the dirt. Okay, this is fine. This is just slightly dirtier. Now we don't need this, right? Cool. Okay, let's go now into the bass group, right? So everything's buzzed to this group. First thing I have is C4, wave C4, multi-band compressor. What I have is I'm only engaging the lowest band. This is just to massage the bottom end, okay? Just to control the real bottom end first, okay? Okay, so everything usually below 180. Very cool. Next thing I want to show you, this is what I use. This is Surfer EQ. This is an intelligent EQ which can, as the name implies, as it surfs the frequency, okay? So what I will use this for is to dial in, to sort of get rid some of the overtones. So I'm going to go with the narrowest bandwidth. Okay, so take a look, observe, okay, what it does. Alright, it tracks the fundamental note in real time immediately, okay? So this makes it very powerful. But not only can you track the fundamental note, I can also do, right, the upper harmonics. The octave, the fifth above, 4 here would be 2 octaves, and then after that would be like a third above, I think. Yeah, so let's dial this in. So usually there's these harmonics which I don't want. So take a listen and see. Can you hear that honkiness? That kind of range, okay? That actually sounds like 1 octave, 2 octaves, 2 octaves, and a third above, right? So it's like a third. So we're trying to get rid of that harmonic because sometimes, again, the harmonic exists irrespective of what key you are using. So now, if it's a major third, so what happens if you if you are in a minor key? You know, you're going to get a little bit of that dissonance there because you have that harmonic on the major third, but it's supposed to be a minor key, right? So this is very useful in cleaning that up when it comes to bass, okay? So not much, usually just about 2 dB will do. Lovely, okay? Sweet. Okay, so that's it. All right. Moving on, next thing I have one of my favorite compressors for bass. This is the 1176. I'm going to be pretty aggressive with this, so let's check it out. Let me turn down the output, all right, and just crank it up. Okay, let's bypass. Nice, okay. 5 or 6 dB of gain reduction. Okay, now let's get rid of the in phase. We don't need it. Okay, in fact, I can throw it away. Now, next thing will be, right, in the whole series of bass processing is Bass Rider. So this is an intelligent, also another smart plugin, right? All it does is, it's not like a compressor, which will, only trigger after the threshold, right? The transient exceeds, and then it will only trigger the gain reduction after the threshold has been exceeded. Bass Rider looks ahead and automatically applies and, the gain reduction, right? As if it is someone who is really, really quick on the volume fader, right? And in this situation, it does not affect the transient. So here we go. All right, you need to dial in target value. So you can see the way it moves, right? Right, it's going to be making sure that your bass is very even. Especially, okay, let's listen to this this line here. Okay, let's take a listen. Okay, let's bypass it to see what happened. So you see, so some notes jump out a little bit, right? So what Bass Rider helps to do is really controls it. Yeah, because some of the higher notes is like 2 or 3 dB poking out. So this really helps to even out the line. Now, of course, if I want it to jump, sometimes we do want those lines to jump out a bit. At least once it's under control, I can manipulate later, right, with automation, you see. So really, really useful tool. Now, we're not done yet with the bass. Next thing here, this is Waves MV2. Now, MV2 is, right, again, one of the simplest plugins that are out there, but really has become one of my favorites. MV2 is short for max volume. What it does is very special, right? It does a combination, like a little bit of parallel processing, a little bit of expansion, and it also, of course, does the traditional compression. There are only 3 controls, as you can see: low level, high level, and output. So they're dirt simple. There is no attack release ratio or threshold to play around with. Now, high level is very simple. High level is your traditional compression. Okay, you exceed a certain threshold level, it applies gain reduction. This is not what I'm going to be using MV2 for. I'm going to be using MV2 in what Waves calls it low level. But what this does is basically it brings up all the low level detail. And what is the low level detail? Okay, the finer details, the finer elements such as, the attack, the finger attack, the sort of energy, the overtones, and basically what this is going to do is going to increase the energy level. Okay, this is super useful. It's one of my favorite. I use this on bass, on guitars, on lead instruments. It's fantastic on lead instruments, right? Because again, it does not affect the transients. So here we go. All right, I'm going to bring this up. Okay. Okay, now let's go to the B section, which is a little bit busier because that's where you'll hear it more and more. Okay, bypass. Compensate the volume. Two dB. Awesome, right? So it's doing a lot of things. It is evening out a little bit more, but it's bringing out a lot of the energy which is coming from, all the low level things. Usually these things are being buried, but MV2 really helps to bring out all of the energy. Okay, we need a little bit of EQ on the bass, right? Now it is starting to sound a little bit dark, so let's bump in one of my favorites. This is FGA, the API. Okay, let's go again from the start. So 800. Voila, that's all. About 9 dB at 800 Hertz. And usually that's it. Okay, right. I may add something a little bit later, maybe a bit of a bit of London. This is a virtual tube collection, just to give a bit of saturation, right? So this one just saturates it a little bit. Okay, output, let me compensate down by about 1 dB because it does make it a little bit louder. Let's have it pushed. Let's give it a bit more brighter. Bypass the EQ. Sweet, okay? Lovely. So there we go. That's drums and bass. I feel like maybe I want to add a little bit more of the reverb on the toms. So again, set, and don't forget, let's add a bit of tom. Let's take a bit of the top end of the toms group. There we go. Now a bit of reverb on the snare sample. Lovely. Okay, there we go. That's your drums and bass, man. Okay. Right, okay. And Andy Chong says, yes, I heard it, right? On the bass, right? Yeah. It's a big difference, okay? So, and yeah, Fluffbox says, nice. That's a super helpful guide. Cool. I am supposed to do, a separate video tutorial on, checking the phase and all that. But man, it's been super crazy, coming up to Puasa month and all that. All the deadlines. Clients want all their stuff out before Puasa. So it's been a little bit crazy, and before Raya. Anyway, let's move on. There we go. That's our foundation. Let's go on and bring in the electric piano. This is the maestro himself, Mac Chu, okay? So let's listen to that. Oh, this is beautiful, man. Okay, so there's a bit of sub energy, right? That's on the electric piano. Really? Yeah, I don't know, man. It doesn't feel that there's anything that needs to be done. Okay, maybe a tiny touch of the distressor. Okay, let's see. Keys warm. Now let me just mess around with this. Okay, here we go. So this would be at the opto setting, right? Basically, it's just an optical setting. Just max 1 or 2, sometimes 3 dBs of gain reduction. So this is a little bit on the dry side. Let's give it a bit of reverb, okay? Let's give it a bit of reverb, and I will put in the, let's see, where is this? Interesting, I have not tried this reverb. Let's try it and see, okay? This is a brand new reverb. And inspired acoustics. Presets. Vocals, guitar, percussion, string, user preset, snapshot. Oh, this is interesting. Okay, let's put something like, for example, like a concert hall. Let's put it as an insert and see. Just try it out. Let's try it out and see, okay? Here we go. And hello, where are you? Why is there no sound to it? Hey, hello, Inspired Acoustics. What's up? What's up with that? Why got no sound? Okay, all right, okay. Maybe maybe this one is not the. Oh, okay. I've not activated this. Okay, maybe that's why. Okay, let's get out of this then. Right. Let's go with something tried and trusted, which is the Liquid Sonics lustrous plates. And let this load. Let's go for something that's appropriate. Let's go for a nice rich Rhodes and see. Let's see what happens, okay? Ooh. There we go. Let's EQ it a little bit. So let's get rid of everything below. Right, below 130. Oh, that gives so much space to it. Ow. That is really delicious. Let's play it again from the top. Superb, okay? Super simple, okay? Not much to do, right? Again, sounds great on its own. Let's go now to the lead melody. So this is the lead guitar melody. So let's check it out, all right? Let's put it in context first. Let's, all right? Again, there's really nothing much that needs to be done in this kind of a situation. Right, so maybe I'll just do a little bit of EQ just to take out some of the bottom, just to clean it up. Okay. And what I will use here is this EQ. This is called TDR Nova. This is a parallel, it's a dynamic equalizer. Right? So, what's a dynamic EQ as compared to a regular EQ? So you see a regular EQ, you dial in your frequency, you dial in your bandwidth, and then you either your boost or cut, okay? So whenever you apply and you engage EQ, always permanently that frequency range, you know, is always going to be affected, either the boost or a cut. A dynamic EQ is different. It is like it's like a frequency response compressor. What happens is that you can dial into certain frequencies and then you can engage the dynamic mode so that it behaves. So only when those bunch of frequencies jump up and exceed the threshold, then it will, all right, it will either boost or cut and affect that range. So super powerful, super transparent, okay? Best thing of all, this is free, okay? In my description, I already left the list of all the plugins away. You can download away, you can purchase or check them out. TDR Nova is entirely free, totally free. So do check it out, right? Okay, so first of all, let's put on a high pass, right? And to take out all the super bottom. So with electric guitars, you know, you can afford to go pretty high. So everything above 100 hertz. All right now, so single coils invariably always have a little bit of that peakiness at the upper mids and the upper presence range. So I just want to massage it a little bit. Okay, so let's look for that. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna engage band 3. You can engage any one of those, of course. Let's solo it. Okay, I can hear it. So let's hear. Okay, let's go back to that. There you go. It's about 5K, right? Apologize if you are listening on this on the headphone now. That might have been a little bit loud, okay? Right, so Let's go with a ratio of 2, so a little bit gentler. When I work this with vocals, usually I go with a ratio of 3. Attack will be, let's go with fast attack. Let's put the release at about 100 milliseconds, okay? So let's dial this in just to massage that frequency range so it doesn't poke out too much. Widen the cues just a little bit. Okay, now there's one more neighboring frequency. Let me just dial it in. Okay, this one is much narrower, about 3.7K. So same thing. Go with a faster attack, about 100 milliseconds release. Okay, so this one is much narrower. Okay, so this would help to sort of, ease out a little bit of that, because single coils, again, typically right around that 4 or 5K range can sometimes be really, really piercing. Okay. Nice, lovely, okay. All right, so here is, I'm thinking, this is where MV2 really, really shines as well on lead instruments, okay? Because, once again, right, I will use this to, right, when you bring out all the lower level details, this means things like your pick attack, your articulation, maybe some of the lower, the softer notes, all of these, right, comes up a little bit more. So it makes, lead instruments a little bit more exciting. It also sometimes evens out as well, right? Some of the dynamics as well. So I'm going to use this, right? I really love MV2 on lead instruments. Really, really useful. Because if we use a traditional compressor, you will sometimes choke it a little bit too much because it clamps down on the transients, on what's above, you see. MV2 works the other way around. It brings up whatever's on the bottom so it doesn't affect your transients. Okay, here we go. Let's dial it in. Already I feel it's jumping out a bit more. All the effects that are under there, the little bit of the some vibrato, tremolo effects that's in the guitar, all that's coming out a lot more now, right? Previously, right, when the music comes in, or the drums, bass, everything comes in, all the effects kind of gets a little bit buried, but here, it all starts to come out, right? So which is fantastic. Fantastic! Nice, very lovely. Awesome. Okay, now I will be sending this to, let's send this to the lead, right? I call it lead, I call it the lead vocal group in here, but let's change it lah, okay? Let me change this to, and we can remove a lot of stuff that's not really needed here. Okay, let me remove all of this. This is all not really needed. And let's bring in, okay? Let's see what we can do. Okay, now let's just give it a little bit of the reverb, okay? Okay, first thing, not really reverb first. I'm going to place the guitars inside a nice sounding room, just to give it a bit of space. Okay, a bit of mono delay. Just give it a bit of front and back, front to back. Lovely, okay? Now I will probably try and add this same reverb, okay? The reverb that I use on the drums. Add a little bit on the guitar as well, okay? This is to gel the guitar together, okay? Let me just pull this down here so it's easier to see, so I don't have to keep scrolling back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Okay, let's plunk it here. There we go. Here we go. Instead of lead vocal, let's change this to lead guitar. Okay. Okay, let's dial it in. Nice. Sweet. Let's move on. Let's engage. Let's put in this little pad that comes in on the second half, right? Again, nice, beautiful parts arranged by Mac, Let's check this out. Lovely. Okay, let's just roll off at the bottom end. Now, what I'm gonna do with this, I kind of know. Let's give it a bit of stereoization. Let's put ozone imager. Okay, stereoize. And let's widen it. Ooh, okay, this is gonna push it a little bit further out, wider, maybe a little bit outside the speakers, right? By itself, it can sound a bit weird, but in context, right, this really helps to give it a bit of space and a bit of air as well. Just dial it in, blend it. In fact, I want to dump in maybe just a bit of reverb as well. Let's put the reverb before, okay? And this one, let's just go with the stock. Let's just go with the stock reverb. No, that stock reverb is under Steinberg. Reverb. Let's go with Roomworks. Let's go with a hall. Let's try and look for a hall and see. Oh, there we go. Right. Hey, he kind of knows, right, what I'm looking for, is it? So hall, let's go for hall grand chamber, and let's check it out. Ooh, really nice, okay? Let's blend in, bring the mix up to about 40%. Just to widen it out and spread it out a little bit more further, okay? Right. That was like a triple redundancy there. A little bit more further. That's Malaysian language for you lah, okay? There you go. Just underneath there. Beautiful. Okay, cool. There are some fills and some synth line fills that we'll ignore that for now. So let's focus and concentrate on all the main parts first lah, okay? Here we go. Next thing will be the lead guitar melody. Let's check it out. Lovely. Not much needs to be done here, to be honest, okay? So I've sent this to the solo lead group. Just take out a little bit of the bottom. Okay, I think what I'll do again is go back to our good old friend TDR Nova. Super powerful, okay? So, okay, with guitars, I'll go with a slightly higher slope, 24 dB per octave. Nice. Okay, great. And then also a low pass filter here. Let's see where we can bring it down. Yeah, at about 9K, right? With electric guitars, especially right with amped up guitars, string guitars, there's actually very little information above 8, 9, 10K onwards, so you can afford, right, to really shape and sculpt it this way lah. But the main deal here is I want to sort of just, again, even out a little bit of the the harshness, okay? Just a little bit. Okay, a little bit of this honkiness here. About 850, just a tiny touch. Let's take away this. Let's unsolo it. Same thing. Again, fast attack. Okay. Moderate release. Ratio, let's just keep it at 2. Okay, and once again, right, that's usually another one, the typical frequency here. Okay, yeah, about 3.6, 3.7K. Same as when I was dealing with the single coil, right? With the clean sound. So, same thing, right? When you use kind of with the same guitar, it kind of always exhibit the same characteristics regardless of what tone you dial in, okay? That's where the character of the guitar comes in. There you go. Let's loop it. Okay, sweet. Okay, we can probably apply the same thing to the harmony, so I'll just drag and drop. Okay, and where should I plunk the harmony to? Let's see. Okay, now with the harmony line, I can afford to go even high. Right, the high pass can even go higher. So this is also going to solo. Okay, let's check out the harmony again. Okay, cool. Now I'm remembering something. Remember I said, and don't forget. Remember here, the drums actually go into the right, so let's not forget that, okay? Let me bring this group down here again so it's easier to see. Let's bring this guy down here. Okay, let's treat this. Okay, so with lead guitars, especially, solo lead guitars like this, I love to apply a little bit of this guy. This is called Acon Digital Multiply. If I'm not mistaken, this was also free. You can go and check out, okay? Acon Digital Multiply. This is a chorusing, kind of a doubling, kind of a plugin. But what I'm gonna do is just to use it to apply a little bit of thickening, just to make the lead tone a little bit bigger, thicker. You can see here. This is obviously too much, just to show that you can hear it. This one, is too much chorusing already. I just want to dial in a little bit, okay? There we go. Yeah, all right. Next thing, let's put in a delay. All right, so this guy is a new plugin by the company called Baby Audio. So it's called Baby Come Back. This is actually a delay, really cool delay plugin. Let's sync it with the time. Let's see how it sounds. Super cool, right? I'm just gonna dial in a little bit just to give it a bit of space. Now the only way we can actually tell is we gotta listen in context, okay? Lovely. Sweet. Okay. Now, just need to give the guitar a little bit of boost. Okay. Just to have it poke out a little bit more. Let's go with the API 550. Right. Just a tiny touch at 5K. Let's check it out and see. Okay. 3. Bypass. Right, so just to make sure that the lead guitar, right, is a little bit more up front lah. All right, here we go. That's it. Okay, so as I was mentioning earlier, let's not forget this is where the right cymbal comes into play in here, I think. Second half, right? Check it out. There we go. Let's filter out. Take out the 610. Okay, again, this right again, just to fill in the little bit of space. Now, when everything is in, right, it tends to eat up a little bit. Some of these things tend to get a little bit buried lah. So it's always useful to have all these close mic tracks. Okay. Right should be about 75, not too far out. There we go. Okay, so now getting into the keyboard solo, let's bring in the supporting instruments. Let's start with the synth brass chords first, okay? Again, listen to it, how it goes. Okay, these like little chord snaps. Right, I love the dynamics on this, so I'm not gonna touch it. It's got a little cool, interesting swell. So let's just leave it. Let's leave it there. I don't want to affect that, but I do want to give it a bit of space. So I liked what we had just now with the Liquid Sonics reverb. Okay, so let's just pull that back. So it helps to, let's just put that back so that, again, you know, it gives a consistent reverb sound to it, to the keyboards. Ooh, there you go. So a little bit of width and space to that. Okay, now I want to play around with this. Let's see what if I do if I saturate this, huh? You get that saturated sound. Nah, let's just leave it as it is, okay? Because otherwise it sounds like distortion. Alright. Okay, let's check it out. There we go. Just to get a bit of a nice counterpoint interplay between that. Okay. Again, man, with great musicians, it makes the job of mixing so easy, so much easier. You know, instead of having to deal with stuff, you just balance it, place it there, and voila, done. Okay, let's move on. Okay, let's go with the guitars. This is clean rhythm. This is like a clean track, I think. Okay, super simple. I'll just use the stock EQ. Okay, a little bit of this single coil thingy. There you go, there. Just a tiny cut. And what I love to use on clean single coil guitars like this is actually the LA3A. I hope Slate Digital doesn't have an emulation of that yet, but I hope they will do one soon. So I'm going to pull up the LA3A from UAD, okay, the UAD version, which is awesome by itself, okay. Again, super simple. Again, no attack release. Just how much of conversion you want to apply, and boom, that's it. All right. Okay, let's contemplate on where we're gonna place the where we're gonna place this rhythm guitar. Okay, let's see what else is going on first. Okay, I initially put it on the right. Okay, sweet. Right, that's all it needs. Let's go with the muted. Okay, with the muted guitar, same thing, man. Oh, I forgot to put this in, so let me just throw this in first. Take out all the bottom. Again, I don't think this does not need much. This just needs a little bit of... And the question down there, actually, if every track has reverb, wouldn't it make the entire track very reverbish? Well, if there's too much, well, it's always a matter of how much becomes too much, you see. So the goal here is kind of make everything sit together in one place. So the reverb here is to give all of it its own individual space. Some of it is used to gel. So for example, the keyboards, I'm using the same type of reverb and roughly the same amount so that they gel and belong and they feel like they belong in the same space. That's the goal, because modern production techniques nowadays, we record in very dry studios or we record very, very dry. There's no ambience. So the kind of the and everything's recorded in isolation nowadays. Everything's with an overdub session. It would be great again if we can go back to the older days, where everyone records together in the same room. You know, they have the room mics. You have a little bit of bleed getting into each other's mics. But that's a lot of the favorite records that we love and we listen to were recorded that way, man. Bunch of musicians together in a room. It just sounds so organic that way, okay? So again, it's just a question of there's no right or wrong. You can always go for totally dry. You can always put reverb on everything. The whole entire spectrum in between. What's appropriate and what is right and what is enough, okay, is totally subjective. Right. So let's go with the where are we? The muted track. Yeah, here we go. Cool. The interesting about the guitars here is that it kind of plays together with the synth chords, which is fantastic. Okay, the muted ones can be a little bit aggressive. Okay, a bit of about that 4.4K. Okay, let's check out the rhythm. Okay, I'm gonna have to give it a bit of space, right? The super tap just gives it a bit of room. There we go. So the muted will go to the left. Okay, a little bit of super tap. Just to give it a bit of space to it. Lovely. Right, okay. So now there's one thing here that I want to put in, okay, that I've kind of skipped over. There was this little distortion power chord. Again, this is going to be super straightforward. Just a little bit of 3.5K. Okay, let's pan this a bit to the left. Okay, that helps to add a bit of weight to the entire section. And there we go, alright? Let's move on now. Let's go to the guitar solo. First start with the octave. Okay, right, so now this is kind of going into the same bus, so I may have to automate the delay a little bit. So let's just turn it off for the time being. All right. Okay. Okay, let's bring in MB2 again. MB2 is super when it comes to lead instruments, just to bring out a little bit more of that, all the articulation. In fact, help to bring out the lower octave as well, you know. Okay, so let's go again with TDR Nova, just to again massage that top end. Okay, let's just loop this section. Let's just loop it. Okay, there you go. It's always at the same spot, right? When it's the same guitar, you always have that same characteristic. I'll go a little bit more aggressive, 3.1 this time, right? Let's put a release time also there. There you go. Okay, just to control a little bit. Because if you entirely take it out, you kind of lose the character. So you want to maintain a little bit of it, but not have it poke out too much. Let's roll in from here. Lovely. All right, cool. So maybe we just need to automate the wet level of the delay. So let's do that right now. Nice. Great, cool. Did some little bit of automation just to bring some of these notes at the tail will need to be automated later, okay? But this will deal with it. Let's go with solo, auto wah solo, second half of the solo. Okay, cool. Now, with auto wah, sometimes you don't want to compress it too much because, again, when you compress it, sometimes the auto wah filter, the peaks where you have the filter of the wah coming in, gets brought down, and it's a delicate balance, right? Because sometimes you may tend to lose too much of it. So with this, let's go with something little bit more subtle. So the FG2A, which is the LA2A emulation. So let's check it out on this. So just a tiny touch, okay? Yeah. Just only a tiny bit, right? On average about 1 or 2 dB. Sweet, lovely. Okay, now we can automate this delay back up to 50, especially when it comes back into the B section the second time round. And wow, that's pretty much most of the main instruments. Okay, now let's put in all the other fillers first. Let's put on this little clave thing. Let's give it a bit of nice reverb. There we go. Okay, set and don't forget. Okay, now let's move on to, let's go with the clean fills. Now these actually function more of as lead parts, so actually they could kind of go into this, but let's just treat it separately. Okay, clean fills, all right. Check it out. Let's solo it for a second. Let's solo on this one. Okay, loop that. Okay. Now with occasional fills like this, I probably won't use Nova. I'll just use a stock EQ, alright? Because it's short enough, right? The period that it happens that it's not going to be too detrimental if I use a Nova instead, lah. Okay. So I use this normal stock EQ. $4.7K, a little bit of that. Okay, and this is where MV2 really excels, okay? All these kind of little fills and lines, because it's going to bring out all the detail, especially the lower notes. One thing I just realized, this is actually a stereo track, so I got to dial in the stereo version. You see, all the softer notes all come out without affecting the original dynamics, okay? Without affecting the transient of the note. So it's so much easier to deal with it. There we go. A bit of space with super tap. Okay. Now, for this one, I think I keep it in the center because the interesting about the melody is it really takes up a wide stereo image. So I don't mind having this fill coming up right in the center because there's so much space for it, you know? Lovely. And what follows next? A little synth line here. Let's check it out. Let's see what this does. Okay, right, that's a little synth line. And there we go, another one. Okay. This first one actually feels a little early. Okay, so okay, I hate to do it, but looks like I have to edit Mac Q's performance a little bit. This is a tiny fraction early. There we go. All right. Okay. Cool. Okay. Here we go. Shh. Don't tell anyone. All right. Okay. Okay. Nice. And that's it. Okay, and then the lead synth. Okay, this lead synth is, playing a couple of fills here and there. So let's check it out here first. Okay, this is pretty much dry, so okay, right. Okay. So one thing about this, the piano solo, I definitely need to automate it there. So we'll deal with it in a second. Interesting. Okay, because it's kind of more of unisons. Let's find a way to sort of fit this in together. And here we go. Okay, let's go back with these lustrous plates again because it really gels really well for the synth. So let's plunk this guy in. Now, I should have probably just bust everything, right, to be more efficient. Got to bust all these keyboards into the one group. But that's all right. That's okay. All right, here we go, back at about minus 11 dB. Interesting. Should I keep it to the left? Let's just leave everything in the center first, okay? Okay, automate the piano. Let me just do automation a little bit on the electric piano. Alright, probably, okay, I think in the solo when it kicks in, you might need a little touch of LE3A, just a little touch of it, right? Because some of the notes start to poke out a bit too much, right? A tiny bit. Here we go. Okay. Nice. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Okay, so when it comes back, the lead synth comes back again. We can automate the EP down a tiny touch, back to where it originally was. Alright, so then it's perfect. Awesome. Great. Okay. So there we go. Electric piano, pads. What else are we missing? That's pretty much it, isn't it? Okay, so let's check out this section here. Okay, right. The low snare sample just needs a little bit. Just give it. There we go. Okay, just a bit of EQ at the bottom as well. Okay, let's go back to the low snare again. Yeah, okay. Okay, just needs a bit of that bottom. Awesome. And wow, okay, we are pretty much there actually. Okay, so now let me just do a couple of things. What you're kind of seeing here, these are pretty much all the broad strokes, okay? Going through as quickly as possible. We don't want to spend too much time, right, finding on all the nitty gritty. We want to always try to get the overall picture as soon as possible, how everything fits and how everything sits together, okay? Because again, you said and you don't forget, everything affects everything. So every time we do a single change, it will affect the relationship with what's happening before that. Okay, so what I kind of want to show you a couple of more things before, right, we sort of wrap it up, okay? And pretty much there. This is the initial. When we're done with this tonight, I would consider this like the initial first draft of the mix, okay? The process goes like this. Once it's done, usually I'll let it sit for either a couple of hours or maybe the next day, the following day, when I come back again, fresh with fresh ears, then coming in to fine tune and work on all the automation details and automation stuff. Now, obviously those kind of stuff, when it goes to working in the fine details, I don't really show it on the live stream, because if I do, it's gonna take very, very long. It'll take way too long, okay? We'll be here till like 3-4 a.m. in the morning, and then nobody wants to watch a live stream which is super long, okay? Now, but that's the reality of what happens. So initially, usually at the end of live stream, that will be what I call a first draft. It will probably be, I would say, maybe 85%, sometimes 90% of the way there. It just needs a little bit more fine tuning at the latest stages to finalize it. Now, just a couple of things I want to just show and just point out to you first, okay? Now, let's do a little bit of, let me show you what I have on my stereo bus. Now, I have these things, a couple of plugins here. I have an AOC's Air EQ. This is doing just a mild, little tiny boost at the top end, just give it a bit of air. I have Wave C4. This is a multi-band compressor, and at the moment it's not doing anything, but let's dial this in, okay? I have this in here. What this does is, again, just to give a very tiny massage so that no particular range of frequencies jumps out too much, okay? So let me just dial this in right now. And typically I'll do this at the loudest part of the song, so which in this case would be the B section. Okay, let's dial this down. And all I want to see is just these bands just dance ever so slightly. That's it. Just a very tiny dance, okay? Yeah, that's enough. Yeah, that's enough. Okay. There's another TDR Nova here, but usually I don't use it. It's a bypass. It's not engaged. This is only in case of emergency if I need it there lah. Okay, now virtual bus compressor. Let me show you. Okay, now I have these master bus compressors, right? Set up and dialed in. There's actually three, and the reasoning why I kind of use this in this series is because what I want to do is that I want to have all these three compressors work only a tiny bit, right? So instead of having one single compressor, working like 4-5 dB of gain reduction, each of this is just going to have a very tiny bit, 1 dB the most. For me, this really adds the density. It is going to gel the entire mix together without squashing it lah. Okay, I can always mess around later playing with the attack and the especially the high pass filter actually, right? The side chain if I need to. If I feel this is being choked too much, usually I just need to back off on a high pass filter and it will solve it lah. So again, doing the loudest parts of the song is the part we'll usually try and dial in. So, all right, I'm just going to bring the threshold so that just a tiny bit. So each compressor will just in this series, in this chain, is just going to have about a dB. Okay. See, just a tiny bit. Okay, the FG gray. This is an SSL compressor. FG red is a Focusrite red compressor. Okay, I can hear it acting a little bit hard. So let's proceed first, and then let's tweak it a little bit. I can feel a little bit of squishiness already. We just need to back this off a little bit. That's a little bit better. Oh, that's a lot of reverb, a lot of delay there. Again, all these things will all be automated lah. Okay, so there we go. Right, that's virtual bus compressors. I have a couple of things in here inside my virtual mix rack. Again, this is a custom series lift EQ. Again, this is doing very, very subtle. It's like a little bit of a presence boost set to 1. And this is not dB, by the way. It is just on the scale, right? So a little bit of a low lift bottom. This is disengaged. This is a FG bomber. Again, this I actually activated already, right? Trimmer, this is all set to 0, so it's not doing anything to sound. And lastly, virtual mix bus, because this again, I am also emulating the path of an analog console all the way from the start to the end. You see, so now this is at the end or at the mix bus. So right, I'm again using this. Okay. Okay. What else do we have? Virtual tape machine. Yeah. In the end, this is going to that. Right. As if we have printed it down to a tape machine lah. Okay, a couple of things I want to touch, right? Just to add in a little bit of flavor. First things first, right? And I've been using this for some time right now. First things first would be this guy here, the SPL Iron, right? When I started using this, like last year, I think, I really fell in love with this compressor. This is actually a mastering compressor, but one of the cool things is that you can go into a MS mode, which is what I'm going to do. So from instead of a 1-2, which is a traditional left and right, this is going to engage in an MS. So you have mid and sides. Okay, so it can process the mid channel and the side channel separately. So I really love what this does. So I'm just going to disable the parameter link first. Let me take this out. These are all the output gain boosts. And that's it. This is just the default. It's just running it through it, and very, very tiny, right? Very, very subtle bit of gain reduction on the chat on the audio. Okay. Oh, okay. So the cool thing about MS is the way that it behaves is that, all right, because the way that it's set up as an MS processor, it makes everything suddenly become a little bit wider, a little bit bigger. And when I've been using this, I really, really love it, man. Okay. Again, it is not there to squash dynamically. It's just to kind of spread. It helps to spread everything out a little bit more. Some cool features. It's got the this little switch here, which goes with air bass. I don't know whether you can see it, all right, because it's really, really small even on my screen. And one more called tape roll off, right? So this again is an additional tone control. The air bass is kind of giving you that smiley curve EQ. Sometimes can be nice, but can be risky, right? You don't want to overdo it. And then the tape roll off is if you want to, you know, sort of, again, as the name implies, right, as if you were giving a little bit of tape roll off. But again, it depends. Maybe for this sort of material, right, for Andy style of music, right, I probably won't need it. Usually, most of the time, I kind of leave it flat, right? Only certain situations where I want something to be a little bit more warmer, a bit darker sounding, then I go with the tape roll off setting. But this is fantastic, okay? And one more thing just to dump in, right, chuck in, is something which I learned from watching another well-known mastering engineer do this. He just inserts the API 560 in the chain. That's it. It doesn't do anything. There's a very subtle thing. It makes the center channel feel a little bit more solid. So, right, it helps with things like your kick, your snare, your bass. Everything just feels a little bit more solid down the center. There is a little bit of gain boost, right, because it's like kind of running through the circuitry of the API. But other than that, nothing. It doesn't do anything else in terms of tonality, okay? Right? No EQ boost or cuts here. That's all. The saturator, let's check it out and see whether do we need it. Because sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Because sometimes the saturator is a bit too much, right? So usually I have it disengaged. Let's see how it goes lah. Okay, it's very tempting to add because it adds a bit of excitement, but sometimes it can be a little bit too much. So what I'm going to do very quickly, and obviously if you're watching at home, you can't hear it. But what I'm going to do is actually going to switch over to another pair of speakers. So I have the main speakers that I've been using all this while would be a pair of 8-inch monitors, the Kali Audio LP8. So what I'm going to switch over to now would be the Yamaha NS10s. This is the old classic NS10. So it's going to give me a different frame reference point immediately. So it's very useful because once you listen to a certain pair of speakers for a while, your ear gets saturated, right? It gets a little bit fatigued because you're hearing for the same thing over and over again, the same frequencies, the same sounds, that you start to you lose a little bit of sense of objectivity. So it helps to have a second pair of speakers or sometimes with headphones as well to check it. So let me switch over to the NS10s. All right. Okay, right. So NS10s are passive monitors, so they are passive monitors, so they need to be powered by a power amp, which is sitting underneath here. So, right, you can't see it, of course, but one of the skills is you have to master the skill of turning on the power amp with your feet. So that was what I was doing, turning on and turning the volume knobs, right, to 12 o'clock with my toes, okay? So it's a skill that needs to be mastered in the studio, okay? So let me turn down the, turn on my main speakers and listen to the NS10s. So let me see. Okay, let's play this. Cool. Let's engage this. I think let's go without the saturator for the time being. Okay, cool. Now, one thing that I want to check in right now is just to try this out, okay, And this is again a very new plugin. This is called Fresh Air, again by Slate Digital. This is an emulation of the Dolby A expander. So, right, what this does is that it actually adds a bit of air and highs back. Not the same way as an EQ, because this is from the Dolby A noise reduction circuitry, right? But engineers, right, they used to discover that they can actually manipulate the Dolby to add a bit of air, right, and a bit of brightness into the audio, right, without the noise. Typically, when you boost any kind of EQ, you tend to boost the noise. Okay, so this one very subtle. I am not gonna go more than 5%. Sometimes 1 or 2% only. That's all. Let's just bring it in a little bit. Okay, let's go with 5. Bypass. Very, very tempting. It makes it's like an instant beautifier. Okay, it's like, it's like lipstick and makeup. Now this can be very dangerous. So I probably won't go more than 5 in this case. Sometimes I will dial it back again, listening again with fresh ears tomorrow. I might find it, a little bit too much. I'll probably dial it back a little bit, right, down to maybe even 3 or 2 sometimes. Okay, so let's keep this in. Now let's see. That's almost pretty much it, man. So let's see. Here we go. Right. Let's see. Andy says I'm ready here for 2 hours plus already. 2 hours plus is actually quite okay, quite short. Now, if you actually see the rest of the usual typical MixStream episodes, they run usually 3 to 4 hours long, because some of the other projects got vocals lah, backing vocals lah, this and that, and so much stuff to mix. But right, this is not the only reason. Again, if you're watching this, right, whether right now or even later on during the replay when this is up on the channel, again, I want to emphasize the point. It really does boil down to the initial source. How good your recording is, how good and your musicians and your players are, their tone, their dynamics, their playing with a good source, good capture, and everything. There's so much less work needs to be done to fix and to and sort out problems and fix out issues. You're right. This has really been a joy. It's so fun to work on Andy's project, because right, you work with great musicians, right? Super musicians, and they all sound great when they record. When we record them, they sound fantastic already. But there's nothing much that needs to be done, and this is a lesson that we can take home, right, in terms of production and recording. Put as much effort and emphasis possible in all the pre-production, getting your arrangement, getting the musicians rehearsed, finding the right tones, and during the recording itself, try and always capture the best tone as possible, because it makes the entire process downstream later, mixing onwards, right, super easy lah. Okay. Now let me just show you one last little trick, all right? And it's sometimes appropriate, sometimes may not be appropriate, okay? But this is more of just to create a little bit of dynamics. What I will do is sometimes when we go to a different section, typically if you're in a pop song or a normal song, in a chorus, that's where we usually want to have a little bit of semblance of, you want a little bit more energy. So we can do the same thing. And it's a very simple trick actually. It's just by automating the volume. So this is what we're going to do. So every time when the song kicks in, right, when the track kicks into the B section, I'm just going to bump up this stereo track just by 1 dB, okay? So here we go. Let me just show you. Okay, let's write it automation. Let's get ready. Ready, go. Here we go. 1 bar. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, all right, there you go. All right, so let me just draw this in nicely first. Okay, so just 1 bar ramps it up to 1 dB. Okay, so this is super subtle. It's a psychoacoustic phenomenon. When the human hears something louder, immediately it judges it as being better. Psychoacoustic phenomenon, right? And so doing this, right, is a way to sort of cheat, and to trick the listener into thinking that, wow, suddenly it's become more exciting, it's a little bit more intense already, okay? Without actually changing anything tone-wise, just volume, okay? There we go. Fast forward, okay, so because we're coming back in a solo, then you come. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, right. So usually on the down, right, when we come out of this section, usually it'll be a little bit faster. So because the ear is not so sensitive to that. Now I go for about 1 dB, though some people sometimes say 1.5 dB. 1 dB to me is too much. It's too obvious that the volume has been brought up. So 1 dB is subtle enough lah. So let's go again with same thing. Let's do this same little trick here. There we go. There we go. So here we go. I copied and pasted the volume curve just now. So let's paste it. Yeah. So this one will be all the way to the end lah, obviously. Okay. So let me just automate one more thing. There, remember there's this little delay that was going on really long. Yeah, who knows? Maybe we'll keep it there, okay? Okay, but no, let's keep it a little bit short. So I think what we can do is probably just automate the channel. 1, 2, 3. There we go, right? So this is a much tighter ending. Let's check and see. Okay. Okay, alright. I think doing that, I kind of killed the note a bit too early. There, much better. Okay. What if I drag this out a little bit? If you have a little bit of tail. I personally have a propensity to prefer a little bit of a tail, but we'll see, okay? So this is, again, like I said, these are the initial broad strokes of the entire mix. The rhythm section, your drums, the bass, the rhythm instruments, and your lead, right? So later on, right, I'll take a little bit of a break. Either I'll come back maybe a couple of hours later. Yes, I do work super late. That's a life of a producer / engineer. Or sometimes, right, come back again in the morning when a little bit more fresh, and to work on tweak on all the fine automation stuff lah. But after that is done, when the mix is ready, right, the process is usually I will always sit down with the artist. In this case, I'll sit down with Andy or present it over to him, let him listen, and then we will have what we call the this is the listening and the notes stage. Okay, this is where we will exchange notes. Right, the artist will usually send notes over to me. Oh, maybe this kind of thing we need to adjust, we need to tweak. Sometimes we will do this in person, right, if we need to. Sometimes we can even do it remotely. Technology nowadays is wonderful, is amazing. We can always do remote sessions nowadays. I can mix, I can record, I can produce an artist all the way. The furthest I've ever done with an artist of mine, I helped to produce all the way in Cairo, in Egypt. Okay, all right. So yeah, right. So a lot of these things, right, it's always a collaborative effort. Everyone plays a part, plays a role. We all work together as a team lah. So that's pretty much it. Okay, awesome. Now, it's been really fun working on this, and we've got a lot more tracks that I'm actually working on with Andy. So all right, before we close this, okay, we'll take one final listen to the track. But before I do so, right, first of all, thank you so much for watching, everyone. Okay, really appreciate you joining me tonight on this Friday night. I hope you all are doing well, staying safe, staying happy, healthy and happy. Please take care of your health, everyone. Okay, wash your hands, take care of your hygiene. Okay, practice your social distancing. Cases unfortunately are going up again in Malaysia, and, for a lot of reasons that we don't really need to discuss on this live stream lah. Okay, right? And Andy says also, thank you, JD. No, thank you, Andy. Thanks for this opportunity. Right? So we're gonna be working this on the rest of this mix throughout the next couple of days, and we're going to try and finish up the entire album by the end of this month lah. Okay, looking good. So there are my memory is so bad that I can't remember how many tracks are we working on, and plus maybe there's because there's too many things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 6 tracks, right? Okay, 5, 6, 7. Hang on a second. 7 tracks. Sorry. Okay. So we got a number of tracks, right? That we'll be working on. You've heard only one song. Okay. This is Liquid Dreams, right? Featuring the amazing, legendary Mac Chu. There's a lot more to come. So I suggest that you, right? If you want to find out more, do follow Andy Chong on his social media channels. All of it's down in the description below. All right. If you please go out and get a copy of Andy's first album. Okay. This is the second album that's in the works right now. Go and get a copy of the first album. Again, I'll leave the link down in the description below. And Andy says 7 tracks. Yes, 7. Yes, I was counting again in my screen how many tracks there are. So all right, again, go and get a copy. Right, get in touch with Andy. Go and hit him up on his social media and get a copy of the first album. Okay, there's so many fantastic musicians that were featured on that album as well. So let's take a listen. All right, to this track from this would be the first draft of the mix for Liquid Dreams by Andy Chong, featuring Mac Chu. And again, do share this, right? And hey, if you're watching it, if you're not a subscriber, right, to my YouTube channel, I do hope that you can go and click on the subscribe button right now. And once again, one more thing. Again, I want to mention, I know I don't want to talk too much. You want to listen to the music, but if you want to show your support, right, for Andy and also for the YouTube channel, right, do head on down, go and check out the website that I have up in the text below, www.patreon.com/studio2105. Right, you can also check out the links are all in the description. So if you sign up, check out the various Patreon subscription tiers. Okay, it can be as low as $1 a month or up to $10 US a month, right, for VIP. Lots of perks and benefits. Go and check it out. Okay. Use the code MixStream24, MixStream24, so that I know that if you were to subscribe, right, you want to channel, right, and support, right, the featured artist, in this case, Andy Chong. Okay, so thank you again so much for Andy. And oh, hang on a second, there's one more chat that came up here. Crystal Home Studio Record. Hey, thank you so much for joining in, man. Right, thanks. I did see your comment on one of my videos early. Really stoked that you've jumped on board and joined in this live stream. Okay, right. So, yeah, that's it for tonight. Let's take a listen to Andy Chong. All right, and good night, folks. All right, stay safe, everyone, and see you real soon in the next video.